Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is Common Ground. I'm Jason Downs. Welcome to a place where we can all agree on the important stuff, like finding an individual health plan that keeps you young, full of energy, and fit, as well as out of the hospital from things like diabetes and heart disease. Our special guest today has done just that and so much more. So stick around for some amazing weight loss tips from author, coach, and entrepreneur Connie Ragen Green. Today is March 28th, and I'm so glad you've joined us here on Common Ground. Here's to a great show, a great day, and a great week for all. Our show is sponsored by Denny and Company LLP, certified public accountants. They make your life less taxing at dennyllp.com, and of course the law offices of Lou Espin. When experience counts, count on experience at espinlaw.com. Now, Connie Ragen Green is a former classroom teacher, a former real estate appraiser who left all that behind to come online in 2006 and become an author. She has since authored more than 25 books. She's become a publisher, an international speaker, an online entrepreneur. She serves others by helping new authors and speakers and entrepreneurs to build their own lucrative businesses on the internet. And Connie is also active with several nonprofits and service organizations, which is how I came to know her, including Rotary International, the Boys and Girls Club, Zonta, and SEE International, C International. So Connie and I met, like I said, in the Rotary, and we became fast friends after the first conversation, because I am a writer as well, and so we had that immediately in common, and started swapping some tips and secrets. And she then sort of became a champion and mentor of mine on a more personal level, and really helped me sort of turn my thinking and my attitude around at a crucial point in my life. So I'm super grateful to her for that, and super grateful that she's come to join us today. The reason she's here is because she's written a new book, one of many, as I just mentioned, called In Pursuit of Healthy-ness: How I Reinvented My Life with Intermittent Fasting. So we're gonna dive into this, but first I just want to say hello, welcome, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Jason, for that wonderful introduction. Just the
Oh
way
well.
that you say that, all the words and the pauses and the inflections, it just makes it sound incredible. I'm
Oh
beginning to
well.
say, who is that person? We must meet that person.
I want to meet her. Yeah. Well, I can't wait to talk about all that you learned basically in the past 2 years of your adventure here, and introduce you to all the folks listening. So glad that you're here. In Pursuit of Healthiness. Okay, so intermittent fasting is sort of a we're starting to get into controversial
Yes,
ground here.
very
We're starting to
controversial.
so let me okay. Your new book is a little different than some of your other work because it's so personal and immediate, right? During the pandemic these past 2 years, you lost 40% of your body weight. Is it more than that now? Because that's
No, it's
at the end of your book here.
it's about the same, and we'll talk about that because I've actually put on a few pounds or a few kilos, depending on how people are counting, because I became an intermittent fasting certified coach, and the people I'm working with had that situation where they had lost some weight, they gained a little, and next thing you know, they were very discouraged. And I thought, let me just flow back into my old ways and see what that feels like so that psychologically and emotionally I could help them more.
Okay.
So it's still 40% because I was up to maybe 43, 44%.
So as a way of sort of researching a little bit to help these new people that you're coaching, you kind of took a break from the new habit of intermittent fasting, and then learned what you needed to learn to help these clients, and now you're back.
Yes, because 2 full years, so you tend to forget. And I think when you're helping people, it's good if you can meet them where they are right then, as much as possible.
Certainly. Certainly. Okay, so having said that, I just want to stop for a second and let you know that we are live on Facebook right now. So anyone who's watching live on Facebook, write a question, type a
Yes.
question, and Connie will answer. She is now a coach in this. We're gonna dive into what that means, and try and get past some of the scary things and the controversial things. But throw out some questions, and of course we've got Patty here, our blessed
Heyo.
engineer. He's wearing his spectacles today, and he looks even more sophisticated than usual. Call call in, and he'll answer for us, and make sure you're good to go before you can ask a question to Connie. But please call 661-298-5487. 661-298-5487, and we've got an expert here, Connie Ragen Green, to answer your questions about dieting, about fasting, and about how it has changed her life. 40% of your body fat. So, I mean, just as a first question, talk to me about how good that felt. How empowering, how amazing. I mean, what did that feel like
Well,
to achieve those goals, those health goals?
you're so kind, Jason, because for many people, when they say, "Let me ask you," that first question, they want to know how much did I weigh when I started,
Oh no, we
and
don't need to.
right, no, but I like to share that because I think that
Oh,
there's power with sharing things that really sound scary to say out loud. I was 302 pounds. That's how much when I met you. And during that first year or two, that's how
mm-hmm.
much that I weighed. And I think of it this way: you can't get tall enough for that weight. Even if you're in the NBA, whatever you're doing, you're probably not going to be tall enough for that weight. So
Mm-hmm.
that's where I started at. So to think of it as how did it feel to lose that weight? I don't know that I can answer that because we lose it 1 pound at a time.
Mm-hmm.
And so slowly, finally, the clothes are a little loose. So you're able to go in the closet. I go shopping in the closet. That's wonderful. And when you meet people, they'll say, "Oh, have you lost some weight?" Which people might do that just to make you feel good at times, or maybe something you're wearing is that way. But when they honestly can see it, it's very exciting. So that felt good. And then it felt the very best. I was down at the Elks Lodge on Sierra Highway, and I got out of the car because we were all wearing masks and waiting to go in. And I spoke to a couple that I know very well. You know them, Jim and Sue Lentini.
Mm-hmm.
And I said hello, and Susan motioned me over to the car. She was still in the car, and she said, "Who am I talking to?" So people finally didn't recognize me, and it just felt
Wow.
fabulous.
Wow. That's really exciting. I mean, that's something I want to talk to you about later, about this idea of reinventing ourselves. We'll get there. So much exciting ground to cover here. Um, First, let's talk about the misconceptions about
Yes.
fasting, about intermittent fasting. I feel like that's the best place to start. There's lots of controversy. There's a lot of fear, even. Um, so, how did you get past all of that and allow this to become a tool that really saved your life?
All right, well, let's go back to the first week in March of 2020. And I was hosting one of my then twice annual marketing events down in Los Angeles. And I had invited a woman, Denise Wakeman is her name, someone I've known since I first started online, so 16 years ago. She was one of my speakers. And I knew that she and another woman that I also know, both in person from this business that we all do, that's Dr. Ellen Britt. And she's a physician assistant or worked as a physician assistant for many years, doesn't currently, and also in her spare time went back to school and got a PhD in biology. The two of them were running a group on Facebook for intermittent fasting, and they were going to have a 10-day challenge. So I signed up for the challenge because that was insurance. And then I went to Los Angeles.
Accountability.
That's right. I went to Los Angeles and I thought, I can still have Starbucks every day. I can do whatever I want to do because the day after, when I get back, I'm starting a 10-day intermittent fasting challenge. And so while we were there, the world shut down. By the time we left, even the flight crews that usually stay at it's the Ayers Hotel in Manhattan Beach,
Hmm.
I would say, "Where are you going?" And they'd say, "Oh, going home. All flights canceled." So as I got home and started on that 10-day challenge, I realized that I might be doing this to save my life in case I got COVID-19.
Because you were susceptible.
Yes, and I would have been somebody they would have put on a bed out, one of those wheeling beds out in the hallway. They wouldn't
Hmm.
even put me in a room because they have to help you according to what the chances are you have to respond to treatment and to survive. I wouldn't have been in that group. I would have been somebody that they'd say, well, if we get to her later, we can, but we'll just make her comfortable. And that was a real scary thing that I had allowed my body to get in that condition. And my A1C, they were already ordering all kinds of medication and equipment and things for me because they knew I was going to be diabetic within about 3 months.
Hmm.
So that was my start.
Okay, so you took this 10-day challenge,
Yes,
and how did that go? I mean, so now let's get into the nitty gritty. So
yes.
so what was the challenge, and what do you mean by intermittent fasting?
Okay, great question. So on the first day, I assumed that the intermittent fasting meant that you would not eat at all for at least 2 days every week,
Mm-hmm.
maybe over a weekend or something. And years ago, I had done that at times and I felt so horrible. People said, oh, but finally you'll be elated, you'll have a natural high. I never got to that point because it was just such a horrible experience that I quickly found something to eat, something sugary and carbs, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But this time, because I was a little older, because I was scared from the doctor ordering all this stuff, you go to the pharmacy and there's bags and bags of stuff they've ordered on your behalf. And I thought, even if that's what it meant, I guess I'm going to do it. But the good news was no. I never have gone 24 hours without eating during all this time. And on the first day, Dr. Ellen and Denise had us choose our window. So you have your feasting window when you eat and your fasting window when you don't. And that includes 7, 8 hours that you're sleeping. And I thought, gee, I could do this. I could do this. So I chose a 14-10. So I was going to feast for 10 hours a day.
Gotcha.
And so I had to choose those hours, and also it could be flexible. If I was doing something earlier or later with other people, I could shift that. So that's how I started during those two
So you
weeks.
started with 14-10, 14 fasting, 10 eating,
Right, and I tried to
and
sleep longer, so I'd feel like I was
right,
eating more because I was sleeping longer. Because it was hard. That was hard in the beginning for me because I was used to eating from when I woke up until right before I went to bed.
sure.
Long ago, perhaps I had low blood sugar, and I thought that I had to eat for sure within a half hour of waking up. But I found that no, that maybe if I did have that, I don't have it any longer, and that if I went 3, 4, 5 hours in the morning,
Mm-hmm.
it would be okay. Plus, I started drinking tea, black or green tea, and you can have coffee, black coffee. So I started doing that, and I was not a coffee or a tea drinker before, but it felt good to have something. So
Yeah.
it's an oral fixation, just that idea that I'm part of the world. I have something, I have a beverage.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. No, that's good, and the fact that you're sleeping for much of that is good. I personally practice generally an 8-hour eating day. I try and go till noon, and then stop eating by 7 or 8 in the evening. And I read that you eventually went to an 8-hour and then a 6-hour
Yes, yes,
even.
even more,
Okay.
even more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you were obviously for your health, for health reasons, and for weight reasons, you were aggressively sort of. So, did you? How long did you do the 6-hour, the 8-hour, 6-hour, or are you still doing
Well,
that sort of?
okay, so in the beginning, when I was eating for 10 hours, my goal was then to get down to 8,
Mm-hmm.
to do what you're talking about, a 16-8. And because, see, for you, if you've been doing it for a long time and you haven't had weight or health issues, then it doesn't feel like such a big deal, probably, what you're doing. It just seems like a natural thing, and you're aware in the morning that you don't want to eat.
Mm-hmm.
But for people like me, that food is a big part of just who we are and our social life and just everything. And it's emotional. There's so many things tied
I
to
want to talk about that
food.
too. Yeah,
So
we'll
many
get there.
things.
We'll get
So
there.
I had to slow down. So I did the 8, I did the 16
Mm-hmm.
8, and I felt very, very hungry. But over the days I was doing that, then I wasn't quite as hungry. And finally, I wouldn't even notice it because I was getting into the habit. This is a habit that we develop and
Yes.
everything. Then, and this is true and it's funny, because I'm dyslexic, the day came that I did an 18-6 instead of a 16-8 by accident, and I didn't notice it for a couple of days.
Mm.
And I thought, gee, I can do that. And then that's when I really started feeling good. I started to get those feelings of elation, the natural high, clear headed very focused. My writing was just coming right along, something I had been told about long, long ago
Mm-hmm.
and had never experienced. And finally, from this now, I was experiencing it. And I liked it, like a drug, I guess. We like it and we want more. So that's when I shifted to the 18:6 and maintained that for a while before finally reducing my eating hours even a little bit more.
Amazing. Okay, so I just want to remind everybody we're talking to Connie Ragen Green here. She's written a book called In Pursuit of Healthy-ness: How I Reinvented My Life with Intermittent Fasting. I want to invite anyone to call in and ask questions because she is now a certified coach in intermittent fasting. So just call 661-298-5487. We're trying to dispel some of the myths and misnomers and misinformation and fear about fasting. Um, because I mean, I've been doing this kind of thing for years, and just like you, I started out doing the master cleanse, that sort of thing, where it
Yes, I
was, it
remember
was,
that.
yeah, I mean,
The
years.
cayenne pepper.
Sure.
Yes.
Lemon, basically lemon juice and cayenne and different
Yes.
things. And I mean, the most I ever went was 14 days.
Ooh.
And one of the reasons I even started to do this was because I felt like I was always thinking about food. It was always, whether it was body image, whether it was, I shouldn't eat that, I should eat this. It just became such a constant barrage inside my own mind that I was like, this is out of control. It's controlling me, you know?
Yes.
um, and I know you talk a lot about eating to live as opposed to living to eat. I feel like it's similar to that sort of thing. I just felt like I had no control over this, and you talk about control in here too, which we're going to get into. But I did find that those kinds of extremes, often led to an extreme in the other direction as well. Because once I would get done fasting for any number of days, I sort of went right back to some of the negative habits,
Yes.
and the cravings so I found that this intermittent fasting and changing a diet to more, obviously more whole foods and plant-based sort of
Yes.
foods has made a much more difference. It's a slower burn, as you found.
Yes.
It takes much more sort of time to rebuild those new habits. But I feel like once you do, it can lead to this elation and this clarity that you're talking about, and you really do start to see a difference.
Yes, and also this is a good place, Jason, to jump in and tell people they must consult with their medical professional. And my person, I have at the beginning of the book the 5 people I dedicate this book to that really are just so crucial to my journey and my success with it. And I've talked about Dr. Ellen, I've talked about Denise, but Dr. L. Tom, who's local in Santa Clarita,
Mm.
he was right on board. I was a brand new patient to him in January of 2020, and he just has been so important to this. And people do need to go and get your blood checked, get everything checked, know your numbers across the board so that you can see your improvement. Like with my A1C, I was almost at an 8. They were ordering everything because they could tell by the graph. It wouldn't take, a neuroscientist to look at the graph and see that my numbers were headed in that direction.
Hmm.
And now I'm able to maintain like a 4.8, a 4.9 A1C,
I
and that
do I
works
do
well.
appreciate that about your book. You do make it very clear that you're not, trying to claim to be some sort of physician, and that they should always consult their doctor, or a physician that they trust. And I think that's excellent advice. Because you're right. I mean, one of the reasons that prompted me was my physician as well. They even prescribed a couple of films, a couple of documentary films. My cardiologist did, because I was looking at high blood pressure and high cholesterol,
Yeah.
and had to face some things, and make some changes. And it really does serve. I don't know if it was fear of dying, or I mean, you're looking down the barrel a little bit, and I mean, this guy told me straight up. He said, if you keep going in this direction,
Yeah.
this is what will happen.
And the medication is just so horrible for our
Yes,
bodies and our
yes,
minds. It's just really
yes.
not the direction we want to go. Just because there's a pill that helps with something doesn't mean that that should be the direction that we accept.
Totally agree. It's my belief that yeah, we truly can heal most things through fasting and diet.
Yes,
And I
yes.
don't mean dieting. I mean, what we put in our body.
That's right. That's right. And also, we were talking at the beginning, this is still very controversial. So if the doctor that you're going to, if they somehow say, "Oh, no, that's a fad. No, that doesn't work," or something, just slowly ease them into that and sometimes provide them with some information. You could give them a copy of my book. You could send them to a couple of websites or a couple of people that are very powerful in this field. And Jason Fung is one of them. I don't know if you know who that is.
Well,
And
just
Dr.
from your book,
Yeah, and
yes.
Dr. Attia, Attia. So there are people that are very knowledgeable, and that would be something because finally, when the doctor sees the results, they'll say, "Tell me again what you're doing," and then that will help other patients, other people in their
There you
family.
go.
My doctor family members are on board with this
I mean,
now.
that's the other great thing about your book is that you do list all of these resources
Yes.
and a step-by-step sort of start guide even at the end. So anyway, we're going to take a quick break. I want to remind anyone who would like to ask Connie a question about intermittent fasting or the diet that has helped save her life, then please call 661-298-5487. We're going to come right back and talk about how this also has an effect on anti-aging.
Yes.
So stick with us right here on KHTS 98.1 FM and AM 1220.
Playing now at the Canyon Theater Guild are two literary classics that you won't want to miss. Little Women the Musical will delight you with show-stopping music and ballads fitting this timeless story of family and perseverance. Also, The Lilies of the Field, dedicated to the late Sidney Poitier, who earned his first Oscar portraying the lead role in this delightful and heartwarming story. Both shows run through April 16th, so get your tickets now by calling the box office at 661-799-2702 or online at canyontheater.org.
Time for a car wash, but fearful of the scratches that go along with it? Canny Car Wash and Valencia Car Wash proudly use 100% lamb's cloth to prevent scratches and provide the best wash possible. Both locations use environmentally friendly solutions to wash and wax your vehicle, and they both accept all other car wash coupons. Give your vehicle the wash it deserves. Visit Canny Car Wash on Soledad across from Edwards Cinema or Valencia Car Wash on Creekside Road behind Target.
At WM of Santa Clarita Valley, we're more than a waste and recycling service provider. We're part of the community with more than 2 decades of dedicated service. We proudly support community organizations such as the Boys and Girls Club, Bridge to Home, and the Santa Clarita Valley Sheriff Station. Together, we are working toward enhancing the quality of life for all who call Santa Clarita home. Thank you for allowing WM to serve you.
Your hometown station. KHTS.
Welcome back. This is Common Ground. I'm Jason Downs. Welcome to a place where we can all agree on the important stuff, like health and well-being. We have Connie Ragen Green in the studio today. She is an intermittent fasting coach now, and she has lost 40% of her body weight using this tool, intermittent fasting. And so we're learning about this today. Lots of exciting stuff. We welcome your calls, 661-298-5487 if you have a question for Connie Ragen Green. It's a wonderful book. I highly recommend it, In Pursuit of Healthy-ness. And you can get this book on Amazon, but I think it's easiest if you go to ConnieRagenGreenBooks.com. Her name is spelled Ragen, Reagan. So Connie Ragen Green, books.com, In Pursuit of Healthy-ness. So I just want to read this from your book here. It says, I define healthiness to mean the state of feeling comfortable in your skin and the ability to physically, mentally, and emotionally create a life that brings you joy and satisfaction. I love that.
Thank you.
And I mean, who could say no to that? You know, you know what I mean? Am I right? Who could say no to that? So we've also been talking about some of the myths and misunderstanding of fasting. I want to read part of this too from your book. Intermittent fasting is not new. It's truly an idea that has withstood the test of time. In fact, the three most influential people to have ever lived have all agreed that fasting is a beneficial process. Jesus Christ, Buddha, and the Prophet Muhammad all shared a common belief in the healing power of fasting. And Hippocrates himself, who is widely considered the father of modern medicine, he prescribed fasting. And in fact, he said to eat when you are sick is to feed your illness. And this is interesting because it's always something that my mother lived by as well. This is something she told me. She made, oh, you're not feeling well. Here's some lemon juice and honey, and and
Feel better.
we'll keep you in bed, and you won't eat, and it's interesting. He said to eat when you're sick is to feed your illness instead of using medicine. Better fast today.
Yes, yes. And feeling sick doesn't mean necessarily that you're too sick to go to work or too sick to go to the movies.
Just in general,
it's
right?
Just in general. So that sluggish feeling that I had, I was just always so uncomfortable in my body. You can't really, unless you're wearing, I guess they used to call them a muumuu, the Hawaiian women's dress. I guess if you find a muumuu, then you could be a little more comfortable. But just that feeling of the opposite of well-being, the unwell feeling. We don't
In
want to have
general,
that.
not
We don't
necessarily. Ooh,
need
I
to
have a
it.
cold and I need to stay home from
Right,
work. And
right.
I feel like we know, and it sounds like you experience this as well. Like I know when something is off, and it sounded like you came to a point where you just knew
Yes.
that this had to happen. And I'm so glad that you found it, because we need you around, first of all, but but even just for your own happiness and healthiness, as you say. Along those lines, you also said, and I'm quoting from your book as well, up until this time, you had been a quitter and someone who did not follow through unless you could see tangible evidence that something was working for you. And I feel like that's such
Yeah,
we
that's
all
what it
can
was.
relate to that.
Yeah, yeah, because in terms, I mean, it spilled over, of course, into my personal life and into starting the business and the years I was a school teacher, all those things. It's like if you can't see it pretty quickly. So I think with weight loss, if people don't lose, they want to lose 3 to 5 pounds the first week,
Right.
especially if they're significantly overweight, because that really is possible. And if they don't, they'll say that didn't work for me. Well, during my 10 days, which was a 2 full weeks of the challenge, intermittent fasting challenge back in March of 2020, I didn't lose a pound.
Not a single
But
pound.
I believed in Dr. Ellen Britt and in Denise Wakeman and in the other people that were in the group, some of whom I knew. And I thought, I'm not going to quit. I'm going to keep this up. I'm going to learn as much as I can. But quitting right now no longer makes sense for the person that I want to become. And so I stuck with it.
Okay. So along those lines, one of the things that you say Dr. Ellen sort of put out there that intrigued you was this idea of the anti-aging benefits. Okay, so one of the basic principles behind fasting, right, is that it gives your body a rest from this constant barrage of insulin that eating produces in our bodies, and then allows the more regeneration of cells
Yes.
in our bodies. And this is where the idea of anti-aging comes from. Is that correct?
That's correct. That we all, and you think about it when you take a shower, when you shampoo your hair, you're sloughing off the dead cells. We don't want, in our skin we say, oh, we're gonna use our little scrubber in the shower or something. But what happens to the inside of the body? You can't actually get inside there and get rid of those old dead cells. And the truth is, they build up over time. And that's just so dangerous and so unhealthy. So there's something called autophagy, and both Dr. Ellen and Denise teased about autophagy during the challenge, and because I stayed with the group, I was then able to get the advanced training on these topics, such as this one. And the idea is that by extending your fast a little longer than might be comfortable initially, and doing that a couple of days a week, you can slough off the old dead cells from every organ of your body.
Amazing. And when you
And it's
say
amazing.
extend the fast, you don't mean extend it to 2 days length. You
No.
mean simply extend that
Extend it
window
to 18, 19
for a couple days
hours.
a
Yes,
week.
and that's where I first started trying to do the 19.5 and then the 24. And after I did that and saw how I felt, because you can't see the inside, your skin, you can see the skin, you can see the hair, but on the inside, it's a feeling. And it's a great feeling. Plus, as I was getting my numbers, all my tests done, all my blood work, everything done very regularly, especially during that first year, it was just amazing. And one time, Dr. L. Tom, he was pacing back and forth outside. I opened the door. I said, "Are you coming in?" And he said, "Oh, I'm sorry. I don't think I have your test results." I said, "No, no, no. It's me. Those are my numbers." They had improved so much across the board. He didn't think it was mine.
He didn't recognize your
He didn't
blood work,
recognize
just
that.
like the
Yes.
Lentinis didn't recognize you in person.
Yes.
Yes. So autophagy
Autophagy, and it comes from
is
the Greek.
is what this anti-aging sort of.
Right. And from the Greek, and it means self-devour. And I've written about the day my body started to devour itself. Because to me, if you
From
can
the inside.
visualize any of these things. So I had cancer years ago, and for the first time, and that's when the doctors and surgeons introduced me to visualization. And they did it with children, and they said the little Pac-Man, if people remember Pac-Man, the little Pac-Man is going around through the body and eating up those cancer cells so that you'll be okay and you're going to live and be healthy. Well, I now use visualization, and I think about the autophagy as something modern day Pac-Man and Pac-women are going around through the bloodstream and through every organ, because our body is very complex. And anytime there's something that's older than X number of days or months, that's it. It's
Just
just being
cleaning
sloughed off.
up the trash.
Out
Yeah.
it comes various ways.
Huh. Okay. And you say in your book it is actually a wondrous thing to be able to slough off all the old worn out cells in favor of new energetic ones. We're accustomed to this when we brush or wash our hair, right? Shower, exfoliate.
Yes.
Who knew that we could do this for our organs and body systems and set it all on autopilot?
Yes.
Yeah, if you give it a chance to do the work itself, it will. Okay.
Yeah, because the body, it's such an amazing machine that everything is just on autopilot. But if we mess that up, overeating, not sleeping enough, all
Well, we're
these
sabotaging.
things, then
We're sabotaging our own
yes,
systems.
and we win, unfortunately.
And this goes into some other really important stuff that you bring up. You talk about surrendering, right?
Yes.
You talk about all the things that get in our way before we even take this step, which again, was highly personal in this book, and I think that really helped in a way, to
Yes.
relate and understand. I'm sure you have plenty of experience in that regard, but can you talk about some of these obstacles and how you ended up surrendering to this idea? I know your health and your weight, brought you to this breaking point, but was it by force? I mean,
No, it was
how
it was by choice. It really was. And the first person that really got me thinking differently about food is someone named Cheryl A. Major. And she suffered from depression from the time she was about 12 years old. And she was on medication, and it was affecting every aspect of her life. And she began working with me. I was helping her with her business. And she ended up writing her first book. Her second book is coming out in the next few days. But her first book is Eat Your Blues Away, how she disappeared, because we don't say cure, so in quotes, how she disappeared years of depression by changing how she ate. And it all started when she was helping her husband because he had been put on statin drugs, and it was just wreaking havoc with his life. And they changed everything that they were doing in terms of the food they brought into their home, the food that they prepared, and what they ate. And it was her that got me thinking differently, that I did have a choice about what I ate every day. And I could have delicious foods, just not the kind of stuff I was eating every day.
So, but specifically, to take that a step further, you talk about how we begin to form some of these habits from a very early age because it's one thing that we can control about our lives, right? We can
Yes.
control what we put in our mouths, and then you talk about now as an adult becoming aware of all of that and turning it on its head, right? And so it's a new type of control. Now I'm controlling it in a completely different way that actually benefits me as opposed to sabotages me.
Yes.
So can you talk about that and how you
Yeah.
came
Yeah, because,
to
as a
overcome
child,
that?
I used to cry for Hershey bars, and my mother would make me eat an apple, and it felt like a punishment. But then, it turned
Right.
out later that I was down in the Santa Monica area, and there were so many pesticides being put in the ocean that I used to say, well, maybe I wouldn't have had cancer if I'd had more Hershey bars than apples filled with pesticide. But that was kind of the beginning of the power struggle that I had just at home with food. Then you get a little freedom when you're about 11 or 12, and you know this from having children. And all of a sudden, you can do anything you want to do. So I had control of everything, but I had lost control of my life. I had lost physical control. So many things I couldn't do. I used to speak on the cruise ships, and they would go for these day outings and go zip lining and everything. I didn't even go to watch them do it because I knew I couldn't do it. And so my life, everything was a big mess. So I thought, let me have control in the other way. And as I started during that challenge and then the weeks beyond when I finally did start losing some weight, I thought, this feels good because I'm in control every single day. I want to know what foods I'm going to have, and I have all these things ready to eat. And then during those hours that I've set for myself, that I have delicious feasts of all kinds, so many things. And also, there are no foods that are off limit, so I haven't
That's the
given up
nice thing about it
sugar.
too, right?
Yeah.
Is that it's not that you can still have everything.
You can still have
You just
everything.
can't have it every day all the time.
Right. So I
That's all.
still eat sugar.
Yeah.
I still eat carbs. I never gave up bread or pasta or anything, and I don't need to eat gluten-free, even though that is a good choice, but it's not something I need to do. So I'm still eating what I want to eat, but I eat a lot more fruits and vegetables and
Yeah,
salads
me
and
too.
things like that, and much less of meats, things
Yes.
like that. I don't even have the taste for it very often.
Me either. I've cut out
Yeah.
meats. I'd say it's become about 10% of my diet tops.
Yes.
Tops.
Which is really the very
So I haven't
best
cut it
thing
out.
for
I'm
us.
not a vegan or a vegetarian or
Right,
whatever
neither,
other
neither.
people have stigmas about. No.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
And also
actually, your doctor, Dr. Britt, right?
the woman, Dr. Ellen Britt, yeah, she's
Yeah.
the
Okay.
one
So
in the
Dr.
group.
Britt,
Yes.
she says 5 or 5 or is it 4 tips? I can't remember now. She says stay consistent, which is one of the first challenges, right? Do the work, study the research, experiment with tips and suggestions from your doctor and from other trusted advisors like yourself, a coach, to find what works best for you, and then stick with it.
Yes, the
So those 5
consistency,
points.
it's so important. I mean, long ago, if you remember, Rodney Dangerfield used to do a comedy routine where in the morning he had a high protein diet, and then in the afternoon he was counting calories, and by the evening he said, I was exhausted and I put on 5 pounds that week. So consistency. So every day. So I don't say, oh, well, I do intermittent fasting 3 days a week. No, this
it becomes
your life.
It becomes.
But I
yeah.
mean, the delicious foods that I'm able to eat, and I choose when to break my fast. That's the most powerful thing that I have every day. I decide what time that will be based on my activities for that day.
All right, so we're going to take a break and we're going to come back and talk about that some more. We're going to talk about how this translates into the real world, right? Because you started this journey, this amazing journey of losing 40% of your body weight at literally the beginning of the pandemic. So you kind of had this sort of amazing little season, right, to put these habits into place and solidify them. So I really want to hear how you've done now that things are opening up in the real world. So stick with us. We're talking with Connie Ragen Green and about her new book, In Pursuit of Healthiness. So stick with us right here on KHTS 98.1 FM and AM 1220.
This is Bradley from Santa Clarita Grocery, the all-volunteer grocery program serving children, families, and individuals experiencing food insecurities. Since January 2020, Santa Clarita Grocery has distributed 83 tons of fresh groceries to 4,465 families in the SCV. Santa Clarita Grocery is a drive-up, drive-through service with physical distancing in place to continue serving our community. If you are in need or looking for a charity to do the most good for our community, please consider partnering with us by donating to Santa Clarita Grocery, one of the most efficient charities in the Santa Clarita Valley. A full 99 cents out of every dollar goes directly back to the community. Santa Clarita Grocery operates on a 1% overhead and is sustained through private donations. Santa Clarita Grocery is at 21176 Center Point Parkway in the Oasis Furniture parking lot. Please visit our website, santaclaritagrocery.org, or our Facebook at Santa Clarita Grocery to make a difference in our awesome town community. 661-425-7575. Be our guest and experience the difference.
Our trash has got to go somewhere, and Chiquita Canyon Landfill is helping make the Santa Clarita Valley a little greener. Our local landfill creates clean energy from our waste disposal to power 10,000 homes each year. With their 9.2 megawatt clean energy facility harnessing the landfill's methane gas, you can feel good that the waste from your home in the SCV is helping create a clean energy source. Chiquita Canyon Landfill is our partner in sustainable living.
Chiquita Canyon is helping lead the way to a greener future. Chiquita Canyon Landfill, our partner in sustainable living.
I listen to it all day, every day.
Hometown, your hometown station.
Welcome back. This is Common Ground. I'm Jason Downs. We're talking with Connie Ragen Green, author, coach, entrepreneur. She's written a book, In Pursuit of Healthiness, about how she reinvented her life with intermittent fasting. It's a powerful tool. It's changed her life. I can speak from experience myself that I highly recommend it. She's even recommending some local physicians that have helped her, and her book provides every single one of their names. It also provides a start guide to help you along the way. It's a fantastic book, very personal, very powerful. Highly recommend it. You can find her book, In Pursuit of Healthiness, on her website or on Amazon.com, but her website is ConnieRagenGreenBooks.com. She's written over 25 books at this point, so you can check out some other work she has there. But In Pursuit of Healthiness is what we're talking about today. We're talking about intermittent fasting. The show is sponsored by Denny & Company, LLP, at DennyLLP.com. And, of course, the law offices of Lou Espin at EspinLaw.com. So let's talk about those folks out there who might be ready to sort of make a serious change in their health. They're ready to surrender, right? So one of the things you talk about that really helped you along the way were these non-scale victories, right?
Yes.
Which I found interesting as well. So how you said that you didn't lose a single pound those first couple of weeks, right? And that's where most of us start to say, "Oh, well, this isn't working for me. Oh,
Yes.
well, and so we really encourage folks to hang on. But how did you hang on? And it seemed like non-scale victories were one of the things that helped you, aside from the community that you surrounded yourself with, right?
Right.
That was a huge support.
A huge support system that's so important. And for me, I decided to just kind of step back from my life. So it was almost as though I were on the outside looking in at who I was. And I thought, even if I haven't lost weight, and I don't think anybody asked during those 2 weeks, and I didn't volunteer that I hadn't lost any weight. I didn't lose any weight for about 4 weeks. I finally lost a couple pounds.
Okay.
And I thought, no, I have to be the kind of person that follows the science and follows the people who are knowledgeable and have been doing this for years and are doing research. They're professionals. They're finding out. And one thing that I really like about the intermittent fasting is that you don't have to exercise every day. So you're not walking or running for a certain period of time, but movement is good for the body. So the fifth person in my 5 dedications is Kathy Hicks. And I met her online at the beginning of the pandemic. She was running a Zoom group of women that were exercising in the morning. And I started to learn a lot about health from her. So during this time now, all of my people are all together in the intermittent fasting world when Cheryl Major and Kathy Hicks were not initially.
Okay.
So I brought them in. But I thought I have to be somebody that really cares about my health and cares about the people around me, the way that that's included. So if we don't take care of our health, that affects everybody that's in our life at some level,
Sure.
because something happens where they say, oh, yeah, she wasn't taking care of herself, that kind of thing. So I wanted to just shift my thinking, shift my attitude, my beliefs, and shift my actions. So the action habits that I began to develop were ones that really, fed into this new world that I wanted to have. I didn't know I could reinvent my life. I didn't know that I would ever hit 100 pounds lost or anything, but I just kept at it. I kept learning. I kept believing, and things started to fall into place. And
these non-scale victories helped you along the way.
They helped me along the way.
Let's talk about that. I mean,
yeah, like going into Macy's, because I was used to going to I think they called it the women's section. It was downstairs next to men's shoes and the men's department. And if you went on the escalator upstairs, all of the beautiful women's clothing that took up most of that floor, there wasn't one thing there that could fit me. And that was always hurtful on some level. I don't think I ever discussed it with anyone, but I remember when I lost maybe 50, 60 pounds, I parked and went in on the upper level, and I looked around and I thought, oh, I could actually shop here. I didn't buy anything that day, but boy, I spent maybe a half hour looking at all of these things. So that was one thing. Moving up my Fitbit one more notch. That was another non-scale victory. Moving my car seat a little closer, because I had to have it all the way back.
Yeah.
Moving it up, all these things. Being on an airplane and not having to use the seat belt expander. I had my own. I had purchased my own that I flew with.
So these are all just very
All these
satisfying
things.
little
Yes.
little victories along the way that you need to celebrate personally.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. No. I totally get that. You even talked about your hats fitting fitting
Yeah,
different.
well, it turns out we have a lot of subcutaneous fat. So I would notice when I was on Zoom that I had the largest head of anyone. And while I'm in the group, I would move backward, I would move forward. And I thought, no matter what I do, I can't get far enough back to have a normal size head. And I thought, well, I guess I'm just a fat head. That's the way it is. As I lost weight, all of a sudden, my glasses fit easily. I wasn't having to squeeze them on. And all of a sudden, my head was normal size. So now it's kind of a joke in our groups. I say, look at my head. It's normal size. Because you don't think about it that way, that you would have those layers of fat.
Small victories. Small victories. So we're coming to the end here. My goodness, really? Are we coming to the end, Patty? That
Time
went fast.
flies when you're having fun.
Time flies when you don't know what you're doing. No, I'm kidding. We know what we're doing, and we're being very deliberate about it. So wow. I mean, this is even more impressive than I realized, because you held on for 4 weeks until you started to see. Because like we're saying, this is a major sort of just essential sort of change to the way that we do things.
Yes.
And even the way that we've been told to do things, for goodness sake. I mean, we're told that we have to eat a certain amount of meat for the protein that our bodies need. We're told we need to eat a certain amount of dairy products for the calcium.
The food
and that
pyramid.
Is
Remember the food
exactly.
pyramid?
And it's actually not quite so true. And we can find these things out for ourselves personally with the help of a doctor, with the help of a coach like Connie Ragen Green. And by reading great books like this and trying things out and really trying them. Like, you had to spend 4 weeks doing this intermittent fasting. And again, for anyone who's tuning in, intermittent fasting does not mean that you're not eating for days at a time. What it means is you are not eating for certain hours of the day. And for instance, Connie began her intermittent fasting at 14:10, which means you don't eat for 14 hours of a day and you eat for 10 hours of a day. And it doesn't mean that you become a vegan or a vegetarian even. You still decide what you eat, but we are also acknowledging that it is vastly beneficial to your body and your weight loss and your overall health if you're mainly eating whole foods and plant-based foods.
Yes, yes, and we have recipes in the group, and people can check out fastfactorcircle.com. If you go there, you can see the group that I'm actually in, and we're always available online. And then we have regular meetings, and Dr. Ellen does very deep research into things, circadian rhythm, and just the effect of light on our
Highly
body.
recommend the book. It's a great resource. Like I said, you've got a start guide in the back here. You've got all your resources with the doctors and with the coaches that have helped you. Highly recommend the book In Pursuit of Healthiness by Connie Ragen Green, How I Reinvented My Life with Intermittent Fasting. You can get it at ConnieRagenGreenBooks.com. ConnieRagenGreenBooks.com. Thank you so much for being here today. This was fantastic.
Thank you for having me, Jason.
As always, I want to thank my sponsors, Denny & Company, LLP, certified public accountants. They make your life less taxing. Reach out to Matt Denny for all your accounting needs at DennyLLP.com or by calling 661-286-8860. They make your life less taxing. And, of course, the law offices of Lou Espin. When experience counts, count on experience at espinlaw.com or by calling 661-254-5050. Thank you to the amazing staff here at KHTS, the owners, Jerry and Carl, and of course, St. Patty Schweka, our engineer. I love having you here on Common Ground where we can always agree on the important stuff. I'm Jason Downs. You're listening to KHTS. Until next time, stay safe, stay informed, and stay optimistic.